Hey guys, Mr. E here, and today we're talking about that little guy right there. The skull, the servo skull. Guy, I don't know, girl, who knows. Thing, it, dude, buddy, my buddy. The little buddy up there, he is one of, if not the best blitz in the entire game. I'm not even joking. This single skull, this thing is so freaking good, and I love it. There's a reason I've been including it in pretty much every single build, and I'll get into that today. I'll be breaking down exactly what it does, how it does it, what you can do to buff it, what it can do to buff you, all of the stuff around it. And in the corner down there, you're seeing some Havoc 40 footage of a build that I'm making for channel members, because there's over 1,000 of you guys now, so thank you so much, channel members. You are fucking legends, especially my best friends, Elise, Sai, Neva, and Ben. You guys are amazing. And yeah, this build that I was doing on stream yesterday is clearing Havoc 40 with this drone being the focus. The drone can do the work, and this is exactly what I've been talking about for the last 5 days or whatever, when I've been ranting about the blitzes in this class and how, like, a couple of them just lack identity and they can't really do anything for the class, and once you use them, they're gone. And then you've got Noospheric Commander over here, and this thing is absolutely disgusting. This thing can just be its own whole ass like build. So let's get into it. What does the skull do? Why am I so excited about the skull? Why is it such a cool little buddy? Well, the skull is a absolute powerhouse for a variety of reasons. And let's first start with the basic ability of the skull without even having any talent points in it, which is kind of, not the purpose of the video, but whatever. This skull has one main weakness, and that is the attack speed. The attack speed is really, really miserable. Having that super long charge up before it even goes on a target is just gonna be not great. The basic upgrade, just getting the baseline skull here, is a huge boost to this. It doubles the attack speed, and it does a 25% damage increase. That is a 250% base damage, like DPS increase. So this is a huge increase over the baseline, and you can see how much faster this laser comes out when we change targets, and how much faster the repeat shots come. And that means that this, even with just the basic upgrade here, it's so quick to snap to the next target and start shooting them that you can actually use this to disrupt incoming dogs, incoming snipers, all that sort of stuff. And this is effective enough, especially at these low health specials, that at long ranges, a lot of times, with the haze of Darktide, and this is way more visible than your game probably is, but at the long distances, you can't really quite tell where the sniper is. But if you can just ping, you can trust that your guy is going to take care of it as long as he retains a clear line of sight to the target. And that is just so impossibly useful. It allows you to split your attention. Much like, and I've always loved this about the RBD's dog, much like with the RBD's dog, you can send him to tackle one target over there while you shoot targets over here or whatever. That is, here again, hands down, like one of the best things about this ability is it can be passively dealing with other stuff that you're not even paying attention to. It could even be shooting enemies behind you, right, while you're running around. This skull does a lot of work even without you noticing it. And the other things that it does, as you notice there, I got some debuffs up there, which you probably didn't even know as a unmodded player. Well, this skull actually has a debuff that it applies to enemies. Not just the burn, but a damage debuff. So look at this. If I hit this enemy, 90 damage in the shoulder, but if I hit him with one of these, 103, right? So we actually get a 15% damage taken increase on enemies that have been shot by the upgraded skull. And look at that, he's stacking fire stacks. These fire stacks can go up to 9 with just him. However, this has an amazing synergy with the phosphor pistol, because the phosphor pistol can, of course, also apply its own brittleness damage taken increase buff, and it can stack burn stacks up to 15, and then this guy can come in and it can hold them there. So this guy can keep these stacks higher and keep him at the maximum amount, and he's going to increase the amount of damage that those burn stacks are doing by 15% or so because of that damage taken increase. And look at the amount of damage. Now, I don't have to do anything, right? Effectively now my drone is doing, how much damage is that? 2,000 DPS, because I've shot this boss 4 times, 5 times, and then he's just able to do this for free, for absolutely free. So this is one of the strongest synergies on the class. It's why on any build that I don't have dedicated range weapons or whatever for, I'm choosing the phosphor pistol, I'm choosing the drone, because this potential right here is just demolishing a boss for free, passively, GG. So that is an amazing synergy that that you should be looking into with the skull. Now, this is without any augments, and it's already so good. But we got to get into Noospheric command, and this is one that I've started playing around with. This is so insanely strong. Now, one part that I can't demonstrate here is one of my favorite elements of this, but of course, at a baseline, this is a huge increase. He'll fire a volley of, like, I think it's like 6 shots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, it's 8 shots. And these shots come out so fast. And they do so much damage because it immediately stacks that 15% damage increase. And it stacks up to those 8 stacks of burn. Yeah, look at that. We're immediately capped out on burn at 9 stacks for the enemy. And they are just getting demolished. And the fact that this thing is so cheap at 25% of your capacitance, when a lot of the capacitance generation for the class is very easy to manage, especially keeping it at, like, you know, 4 stacks or above, very simple to do, means that you can just spam this guy to your heart's content, as you're probably seeing in that footage down there in the corner. And this little guy puts in so much work you wouldn't even like believe, because the amount of damage that he's doing is pretty much better than most guns can do in the game, right? The ability to take out a gunner that fast, right? And he can do this passively as you are attacking other stuff. One of my favorite parts that I was saying earlier, I kind of distracted myself, that I can't demonstrate in the Psychanium because the enemies aren't actually attacking me. But when enemies are engaging on you, when there's actual live enemy AI, if you tag a target and the target is killed by Noospheric command before the 2-second buff is up, or a line of sight blocks the Noospheric command from doing, you know, shooting, it'll find another target and shoot at them with that increased fire for 2 seconds. So with low health targets like the Trapper or like the sniper there, only 2 shots would be required to kill the sniper, and then the next 6 shots will go into various other targets, which means you can find low health enemies that are about to die, tag open the Noospheric command, because you can only, of course, unfortunately, you can only tag enemies that are, like, taggable. That's the only way you can activate Noospheric command. You can tag these low health enemies, and then the skull will turn and shoot random other enemies that it chooses, and it'll oftentimes kill them, because, like, a lot of these low health enemies, right, these enemies have less HP than one shot from the Noospheric command, like 250 or 295 damage. So it'll get a bunch of kills for you back to back to back, and then you can continue to chain this ability over and over and over, and it is just so awesome. So yeah. What is it that makes this skull so good? Why would I want to bring it? Why do I bring it in every build? Of course, raw damage, as I just demonstrated, but there's a ton of other benefits to this as well that are in this talent tree that you probably aren't even thinking about. And I've tried to make a good point of demonstrating this in my builds so far, but a lot of them live right over here. So check this out. We have these talents called Threat Detection Imperative. We have another talent called Galvanic Marking Array. We have Superior Defense Engrams, and we have Hybrid Combat Covenant. These talents here all require you to get range kills, right? Range kills grant stacks. And this is up to 5% toughness regeneration per second. This one is up to 20% toughness damage taken. And then this one is up to 20% increased damage if you kill elites with your range attacks. And this one can increase your melee damage by 15% if you're getting range kills and swapping back and forth, right? This obviously would be really hard to do if you were not very active as a player, swapping back and forth between range melee, range melee, range melee. Well, guess what? The drone does all of these for you. The drone will stack these up and keep them stacked up without you doing anything. With the basic upgrade, he is easily getting at least 1 kill per 8 seconds, which is keeping Superior Defense Engrams fully stacked up. Threat Detection Imperative is also very easy to keep stacked up because it only decays 1 stack at a time. Galvanic Marking Array, as long as you are putting him, especially with Noospheric command, if you're putting him on those targets that are elite, he's going to take them out no problem. And yeah, all of these are going to generate a ton of value for you. And as you can see with my uptime stats here is running as the Noospheric commander, the build you're seeing down there. And we have a 98.5% uptime with this at an average of 4.52 stacks. So we are always running at almost full 20% toughness damage taken from that single talent. We are almost guaranteed a 15% melee damage buff because the skull is killing so often, even though I oftentimes wasn't even able to get into melee, as you could see, right, because he was doing such effective damage. He also activates this range kills regenerating toughness. So we have an average stack of 4, meaning 4% toughness per second throughout the entire game. Just a absolutely, and here's the galvanic marking array stacked up, you know, giving us extra 10, like 10 to 15% damage or so. Really, really powerful stuff. So that's what the skull can do for us, mostly like generating these toughness regeneration and toughness talents over here. But what can we do to buff the skull? How can we make the skull do more damage, juice it up, get it to be a beefy boy? Unfortunately, there aren't a whole lot of things in the tree that can directly buff the skull's damage. So the skull just sort of has the damage it does. The things that are like Sustained Assault Doctrine that increase your damage like 15%, Galvanic Marking Array increasing damage by 20%, all this stuff, it is just a damage increase for you, which is really unfortunate because, yeah, if that buffed the skull, it'd be really, really nice. However, what we can do is we can debuff enemies. We can make them take more damage. So that will increase the skull's damage. So, for instance, with our lovely Shock Maul here, we can do high voltage, or not high voltage, but rather System Shock. And System Shock, it brittleness enemies. So with the enemies being embrittled like this, we can add more damage to them. So watch the basic damage for Noospheric command here. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, pretty moderate. But now let's hit them with brittleness. Boom, 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 boom. Like that is some actual damage, right? And even further than this, we also have a buff on here called Skull Crusher. So if we can stagger them and we can apply some Skull Crusher, now we're fucking cooking, right? That is the sort of power that Noospheric Command can have here, is the ability to follow up immediately on your stacking damage debuffs on these enemies and getting them primed and then just absolutely demolishing them with that damage. So super, super high potential with those stacking damage debuffs. Now, things that unfortunately don't work is like this extra damage versus electrocuted. This applies to you and not to him, so that does kind of suck. But hey, you know, we can also get some damage for ourselves. So yeah, the skull is able to capitalize on when you embrittle enemies, when you make them staggered, when you make them take more damage from all sources, whatever that is. And that means that all the debuffs that your team can apply to them makes them take increased damage. Yeah, the little guy, I mean, he already does enough damage anyway, but yeah, that makes them just so crazy. So be looking for synergies like that if you want to incorporate the Noospheric Command Skull in your build. It's just so good. He's such a quality of life booster. He synergizes with builds that are dedicated to him. He synergizes with builds that are dedicated range. He synergizes with builds that are dedicated melee. And I cannot think of any reason to not have him. And yeah, I think that this is so successful as it is because it generates, it's not like the biggest impact in the world. It's not a fucking rocket launcher, but you're going to be able to guarantee kill one enemy with it, most likely, and that's good enough for 25% of your capacitance. It's good enough that you might trade off using abilities instead, which is very interesting as a concept, and I think that's something that a lot of players would probably like if arc grenades and integrated refraction shitter over here were blitz based or were capacitance based instead. They would trade off using their abilities to use more of these blitzes as their abilities. Anyway, let's get on to our other parts here. I think I've fairly well demonstrated that Purgator Servo Skull is just not up to the task of the speed of the game right now. It takes far too long to get its burn stacks stacked up. I think that's the #1 problem with it, is that, yes, the burn stacks are what's doing the damage, obviously, right? It's just burn stacks. But the fact that it only applies one burn stack every time it turns around in a circle is just a real disappointment. You know, this is too long. We shouldn't be waiting a full minute for another stack to come around. And that is ultimately what makes this thing less than useful, is because it's very hard to get enemies to consistently fight in this area, and it takes far too long. These enemies can do so much to you in the time it takes to have them to die. I think a very easy fix to this would be to add a second flamethrower on it. If you were to put a flamethrower that was behind it as well as in front of it, so the frequency of the flame was doubled. Or maybe it could be a forked projectile where there's 2 flames, so it could stack 2 in a rotation. I don't know what it is. But neither one of those is going to make this thing OP. It would just at least guarantee that you could stack to 16 fire stacks and at least generate some value for your skull. Because as it stands right now, this is maybe one of the worst ways to clear a horde in the game, because there's so many other classes that can do this better and for cheaper, and it also, devastatingly enough, costs a blitz. And these blitzes are shared with the other blitz skill here, the Medicae Servo Skull, which is actually really good. The Medicae Servo Skull is, I like to relate it to the revive speed on your curios here. With the revive speed, a lot of people are like, wait, why would you take that? Like, you know, if you take toughness, maybe you won't go down. Well, here's the thing. If you take revive speed on your curios, there is a non-zero and actually a pretty decent chance that someone goes down in a place where you need that extra second to be able to pick them up without you dying, or fast enough that you don't get crowd controlled or whatever it is, right? And in that situation, it will save the run, because someone being dead is a good chance that you lose the run. It's a much better chance than anything else, right? Having 5% toughness doesn't save you in those situations. Ally revive speed does. Same thing applies here, where if you had another talent point, say, you know, you needed to save a talent point and you wanted to put it, you know, here instead, if you could take this and you would have an extra 15% damage, but 15% damage won't save you where Medicae Servo Skull will. And that's a really tempting reason. Like that logic pretty well holds, is like, okay, sometimes the Medicae Servo Skull can save things that couldn't be saved otherwise, and that can make it pretty good. But that is one reason, another big reason why the Purgator Servo Skull is just out of the running, is because you're never running Purgator without Medicae, I would say. I don't know who is taking this just as a solo standalone thing. And the Medicae using the same charges is just unfair. They should bring their own charges. They should give you potentially 8 charges. I don't know, that seems too much for Medicae. But they should each maybe have their own charges or something, which they very well could, because they have their own like hotkeys for using them, rather than them sharing it. Because it feels terrible. It is terrible to use the Flamer Skull when you could be saving that for the Medicae Skull. And then if you use too much Flamer Skull, you effectively invalidated your talent back here. So yeah, I think that the logic of using this to revive teammates in the same way that you bring revive speed on your curios is fairly solid. The problem, I would say, is that single talent points in this tree are so valuable. They are much more valuable than the perk slots are on curios, I would say. So that's probably the main reason why I don't spec it into my builds. Also, it is kind of a weird thing where as you get into higher levels of difficulty, where the difficulty like spikes up and people are more likely to go down, at the same time, if you're playing with people who are capable and know what they're doing at the game, it's less likely they'll be down than a situation where only the skull can get them. And especially if you have revive speed in your curios, there generally is a way to rescue that teammate and get them out of danger without expending a blitz. And those blitzes that could then be conserved for other people on the team, and you could also save yourself a talent point and not allocate that at all. So it is kind of a weird, like, a sweet spot in terms of, okay, you need teammates who are capable of providing value. If they're going to get downed and be away from the team and it was just an accident, okay, then that's fine. But at the same time, if you're playing on low difficulties and players are just flopping over dead at every possible juncture, then Medicae Servo Skull is not, like, it's not going to be doing anything for you, because it's not going to, like, those players are just going to die again, right? So yeah, this one makes me feel weird, because it's dependent on, like, okay, if I get you up, are you going to be, if I get you up with a blitz charge, is it going to be worth my blitz charge? Or are you just going to die again because you're in the middle of a bunch of stuff and you don't know what you're doing? And or could I just do this on my own? It's a very complicated question, but I'll leave that up to you to decide. Now, yeah, from there, let's just kind of like talk about the blitz system in general. Obviously, this blitz is super, super dominant on the class, right? The blitz is dominant for all the reasons I mentioned. It does good damage. It gives you talent buffs and uptimes. It synergizes with different keystones like redline capacitors here. Being able to gain a redline capacitor stack from using Noospheric is excellent, right? Keeping the more uptime on that by only spending 25% of your capacitance. It has just a very, very good synergy with a ton of weapons and a ton of builds. It's autonomous, it's able to do work on its own, it's able to do work that you direct it to, it's good all around. And it can hack things, which is actually quite valuable, especially on Havoc. Having 4 people fighting and keeping the threats off of everyone versus only 3 while one person is just able to get swacked in the back makes a big difference. And we've all been in one of those situations where the enemy spawn waves are just absolutely denying you from getting a hack, and this thing can save that day. really, really good for that purpose. So can't discount that at all. So this is the main thing about the drone that irritates me, or about the blitzes in the class in general that irritates me. This thing provides so much quality of life, and it is so good at a baseline. It is taking the baseline blitz here, that to take another blitz is already a massive, massive like downgrade in power. This thing is so insanely S tier that taking any other blitz is just nerfing your build for no reason, right? There's no world in which arc grenades, even with the juiciest possible arc grenades, even if you get to pick up 3 packs of arc grenades in the game and you hit the juiciest, fattest blast possible, it's still not going to generate as much moment-to-moment value as the skull, and you lose the skull. You lose the baseline skull, which I think is just an absolute like slap in the face. The thing that irritates me the most about the other blitzes in the game is they require a ton of talent. First of all, they're optional, and they're optional in the way that you lose something, right? You don't really gain a whole lot. If you lose the Arbites dog, think about what the trade-off is for the Arbites and his dog. In fact, we can just pull it up here. Look at the buffs that you are granted when you choose to not bring the dog, right? Imagine if you got these sort of buffs for not having the skull. Now, granted, the baseline skull doesn't give you this, but this is the sort of power that you would be expected to gain from sacrificing the option of buffing the dog and having the dog run around and do all this autonomous work, right? 15% toughness damage reduction, 10% attack speed, 10% damage, 1 increased charge on your blitz abilities, and you replenish charges of your blitz ability every 45 seconds, every 90 seconds for Voltaic. That is so damn good, right? And the reason that you would take this is because the dog is so valuable. That trade-off is actually kind of difficult to make, right? And the same thing applies here, where this trade-off loses you the baseline skull, which does some damage. It's able to actually shoot some stuff, and it can hack. It also loses you the ability to choose this skull over here, and that is terrible, right? That really, really sucks. So here's an idea that I literally just had. And this sounds crazy, so keep with me. I think a lot of people have been saying, well, what I've been hearing a lot of people saying is that when you choose these baseline blitzes, or these other blitzes, that you should get a free choice, right? That these should be buffed up in some way, but then you should get a free choice out there, because you shouldn't have to spend multiple nodes to get this to be reasonably powerful, especially when it uses, a grenade and a finite resource. So if they do that, that's fine. But also, what if these aren't exclusive, right? You can still choose to pick the Servo skull over here, because this, at least this right here, is not controlled with your grenade button. It's controlled with your tag button. So you would have mutually exclusive key bindings in order to control these, and then these could be still locked off. You can't choose these if you've got these other grenades. So you can either go for the grenade and the skull, or you can go for the full complement of skull stuff. Yeah, that could be pretty cool. Now, in terms of integrated refraction emitter down here, this is one that I've been seeing people over and over and over. Thankfully, they have adopted my rallying cry here. This needs to be a capacitance-based thing, and this is exactly going back to what this does. You saw how powerful, or you're seeing in the corner down there, how powerful Noospheric command is as a ability, more or less a ability light to build your build around. It's like a sail, right? It's like a sail psyker. You can build in a sail psyker and you can clear difficulties. What if we had other options? We could, instead of choosing these red abilities, we could then funnel our capacitance into having this shield. We could be a full melee warrior tank. We don't care about other abilities. All we care about is having that capacitance to frontline tank and then explode out and do this radial damage when we take enough damage. That could be an awesome extra way to provide build diversity to the class. It would be super cool. I would be jazzed to play it. I'm certain a lot of other people would. No one is jazzed to play with these options where you might get 3 to 6 of them in an entire game, and they really just aren't going to have that impressive of an impact, especially when compared to the skull. So yeah, I guess that's where I'll leave it for the day. Hopefully I've shown what the skull is capable of. Hopefully you're seeing more of it down there. Become a member if you want to see that full build guide and stuff. It's super, super powerful. We had the skull doing 800,000 damage in a game, literally doing 60% of our total damage. This skull is such a good blitz. It's so close. It just needs the Purgator Servo skull to be fixed up, and it really just makes me cry that the other blitzes can't get the same love. that they got it so right with this one that it has such quality of life, and it is such a cool ability to invest your capacitance and invest your to build your build around. And then they've dropped the ball and made these so boring over here. But yeah, go play with Artificer Servo Skull. It is S tier, absolutely god tier. Noospheric Command is also S tier, amazing stuff. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Mr. out of here. Bye-bye.